Happy Devils Monday. This is The Woo Report. The Woo Report, episode 298, titled Wild Sabres and Senators This Week. Coming to you live from the Primetime Radio Studios bunker in an undisclosed location in beautiful New Jersey. Streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network. As we're talking a little bit about Devils hockey, what a victory last night over the Tampa Bay Lightning. Devils coming from behind to take the lead for good and blow past the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have been to the Stanley Cup Finals the previous 3 seasons. And it was all doom and gloom all week long last week. But at the end of the day, the Devils finished 2-1 against really top-tier teams of the league. And you have to be happy about that. The way they fought back, the way they went through adversity, the obstacles that there were in their way, the Devils prevailed. Still a lot of work to do, but they prevailed, and that's not a bad thing. You beat Carolina. You beat Tampa. Okay, you lost a couple here and there. Yeah, you lost in a shootout. But wasn't that bad. And I think Lindy really has pressing the right buttons right now. I tweeted this out earlier today on my Twitter account, at PrimetimeSamWoo, expressing my thoughts and opinion about Lindy Ruff being a Jack Adams winner. Of course, Jim Montgomery, which he's done a great job with the Boston Bruins. But the Devils are on pace to have a 40-point improvement over last season's record of 63 points. Barring any kind of collapse, the Devils should surpass the 40-point mark. And lots of arguments for the Bruins head coach, Jim Montgomery, but Jim Montgomery inherited an excellent hockey team, a good hockey team that put up 107 points last season before his arrival, where Lindy Ruff inherited a team in 2020. His first season was in 2021, the shortened COVID season. And Lindy Ruff had obviously more obstacles in his way to get where the Devils would be today, near the top of the Metropolitan Division. I mean, you talk about Jack Adams. I get it that the Bruins are on a historic pace. I get it. I like Jim Montgomery. But let me tell you, could Jim Montgomery do the same exact thing that Lindy Ruff did for the New Jersey Devils? I'm not so sure about that. It's debatable. And I'm seeing some hellos in YouTube Live. Joseph Lenham, Max, Felix, Peter. If the Devils run the table, they could end up with 114 points, says Felix. And I would agree. Michael, hey, I see you on the Facebook Live. Good evening. Late show. Yeah, it's a little late. I watched a little TV. I was helping my boy, Vinny Parisi, trying to win a contest, get votes. If you go on my Twitter account, I was doing all these Photoshops at the last second, helping my boy out. Yes, that Vinny Parisi at Game Day Live, which, by the way, Game Day Live and Devils After Dark tomorrow when the Devils take on the Minnesota Wild, which would be a big game. Minnesota Wild, Western Conference team, still very respectable, very good team. And, yeah, Yeah, you know what? I think that's a good test for the Devils. The Sabres and Senators as well, back-to-back, Friday and Saturday. Saturday, Ottawa Senators come in town. I'll be at American Whiskey at 51 Edison Place across the street from Prudential Center next to Championship Plaza and Devil's Den. That I'll be there for Game Day Live and Devils After Dark, as I said. It's going to be a good week. Going 2-2-1 against those type of opponents, what that tells me is the Devils can hang with these top 8 teams in the Eastern Conference. They can definitely hang with them. Still a lot of improvements. I still worry about the beefalytics, the beef, but I think it's starting to come around to some point, at some point. I see Supernova. Hey, Supernova, I love this thing that you drew up for me. You gave it to me in American Whiskey. For those that are listening in on the podcast, the audio version, right behind me on the camera feed is this thing that, Supernova drew up. Digital artist. Love it. Max says he loved the blasting the vote for Vinny tweets. Yes, anybody that knows Vinny Parisi personally, he is a real Italian good guy. He's just a good guy. And who wouldn't want to help Vinny Parisi get some votes? Especially when the other party, in good fun, I will say, was talking a little smack that he's a Devils fan. Vinny doing this thing with the Chicago White Sox and about Chicago that I just was, I thought I had to participate. Yes, the Premio sausage, folks, the Premio sausage. Yes, we love the Premio sausage. If you ever go to the arena, have a Premio sausage. They don't endorse us, but we endorse them because their sausages are pretty good. To be quite honest, and I always tell you that Jamie Langenbrunner story when he was promoting Premio sausages at ShopRite during the lockout to make a couple bucks. Yes. Supernova says us Paisans have to stick together. Absolutely. Absolutely. Vinny Parisi. He's infamous in Chicago and New Jersey. And then later in the week, you've got the Bufallo Sabres and the Ottawa Senators. I think the Ottawa Senators is going to be a little bit of a tough game just because it's a back-to-back. Friday night up in Buffalo, Saturday night at the Rock at Prudential Center. Should be a good time at American Whiskey. And the Devils, if there's a time to catch the Carolina Hurricanes in the standings, it's got to be this week. Carolina Hurricanes has a tough schedule coming up in the next 2 weeks. And I've been eyeing this, and this is where the division could be won, folks. In the next 2 weeks, this is where the division could be won. If you want to skip this upcoming week, you've got the New York Islanders on March 27th, Monday night on Long Island. Then on the 30th, March 30th, again, I'll be at American Whiskey for Game Day Live and Devils After Dark. The New York Rangers come into town. That is a big game, and that's an that is a big game because the Rangers are surging in the standings. They're only 5 points behind the New Jersey Devils with the same amount of games played. And you know that the Rangers are hot right now. They're scoring goals at will, but I'm not intimidated by it, folks. Look at the teams that they're playing. A lot of teams are beating up on the Pittsburgh Penguins right now. So before we start getting really hit the panic button on the New York Rangers and their surge, the New Jersey Devils are still holding their own. I couldn't believe some of the comments off of my tweet about Lindy Ruff, that the Ruff shouldn't be the Jack Adams winner because the Devils, I've seen them all season, they're all inconsistent. Yeah, well, they weren't really inconsistent during their 13-game winning streak, were they? They've been consistent all season long, with the exception of the first couple games of the season and maybe their little slump in December. Matter of fact, there's a reason why the Devils lead the league in the most comeback wins. I mean, what's been consistent about the New Jersey Devils is, hey, if you're down 2-0, the quick strike offense will get into gear. Jesper Bratt did that last night. Time and time again this season has been the recurring theme of your New Jersey Devils is, hey, when we get down, we get even. And their quick strike offense has done that multiple times in each month of this season. And that's something to be proud of. Because in the playoffs, they can surprise you, your New Jersey Devils. Panthers won. Saw that. As the Pens lose again. Supernova says, Sam, you think Luke will play? Well, right now, the NCAA tournament, the brackets have been aligned for men's ice hockey. Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do when if Penn State plays Michigan. I have to root for my Penn State Nittany Lions. I'm pre-programmed, folks. You know how hard this is for me to see our Devils prospect playing for the Michigan Wolverines? I am literally pre-programmed to hate Michigan. But that should be an interesting matchup. By the way, Jim Dowd, former New Jersey Devils Stanley Cup champion with the New Jersey Devils. Jim Dowd, his son plays for the Penn State Nittany Lions in Happy Valley. Good to see Jim posting about that on his Facebook. And the other day, I actually ran into my old Penn State teammate at American Whiskey randomly. Found out he's a lawyer right now. May come in handy. Anyway, let's see here. Wanted to see your questions, comments in the social media channels. But Max says, do we call up Tice to take out Tage? I think you should call up Tice. But how about Nolan Foote getting that goal last night? Max says, if it's Michigan versus Penn State, will you make the trip to Allentown? Good question. Good question. I'll have to ask Mrs. Wu after this because that's something I'd like to see. I like to see the Devils prospects. Like, I can kill two birds with one stone. See the Devils prospects, but also watch my Penn State Nittany Lions give them a little bit of a whoop ass in Allentown. Let's see what would that game be, Max. Max, I got some homework for you in the middle of the podcast, but still listen to the podcast when you're doing the research. But when is that game, if it were to happen, that Michigan and Penn State will play? Now I see Max is being punny right now. Foote definitely has a foot in the door. I think Nolan Foote, I think he is hungry to stay with the big club. And he says March 26th, 6:30 p.m. You know, I don't think I can do it because otherwise the Sunday edition of the Let's Go Devils podcast would be in question. Who's going to produce it? So that would be a very tough call for me, Max. Where would I go? Sunday, March 26th, 6:30 p.m. in Allentown to watch my Penn State Nittany Lions give the Michigan Wolverines a whooping, or produce the Sunday edition podcast on March 26th. Anyway, random thoughts, folks. Felix says Devils have depth. They do have depth. They do. Send Beer Baron on assignment. Sorry, Andrew. Yeah. Good luck sending Beer Baron over there. I'd rather send Shorts Guy over there. You know, Beer Baron's got kids. He's got responsibilities. Checking out right now. But, yeah, well, thank you, Max, for the update, because I was wondering when that game is. Unfortunately, I'm tied up that day. Big week coming up. Also, just remember, March 30th, Devils Rangers, Rangers Hate Day. Going to be there at American Whiskey for Game Day Live and Devils After Dark. Also, Max, I can't believe you dropped $400 on nosebleed seats up in Boston. Up in Boston, see your New Jersey Devils. I think that's dedication right there. But we're going to need a lot of support for that Devils-Rangers game, because let me tell you something. Those Ranger fans are smart in terms of buying up tickets back in September. And I hope I don't see a sea of blue at American Whiskey or inside the Prudential Center, but I think it's inevitable. But you got to stand your ground with those fans. Also, April 13th, last game of the season, Arlette's throwing a viewing party at Stagehouse Tavern on Route 22 East, 1099 Route 22 eastbound side, Mountainside, New Jersey, in Union County. We'll be there. Game Day Live and Devils After Dark. Should be a good time. Really going to be a good time. Last time was a good time at Stagehouse Tavern. Max says, I could go live for warm-ups if you would like. That would not be a bad idea, Max. We'll have to plan that out. Felix says, all the good stuff we've been seeing. Mikey McLeod needs the spotlight. His playmaking, face-offs have been great. Hey, Mikey McLeod he's a specialist. He can do face-offs. That's a good thing. Plus, he's a decent skater for a big guy. All right, folks. Just wanted to do a little bit of a woo report tonight. Just to say hello. Last night's podcast, Devils After Dark, that was some fun. Went into a little bit overtime. Scotty did an excellent job of just doing that game recap. Scotty's very talented. That's why he's on SiriusXM Liquid Metal, showing that not only can he do music, he can do hockey, Devils hockey specifically. But all right. Want to thank all those tuning in the podcast. Just remember, Game Day Live and Devils After Dark after the game, dropping the podcast at midnight. Also, please rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Give us a 5-star review. Hopefully you'll say something nice. We have a lot of haters out there. It's funny because I see some of the reviews on our podcast pages, and I see this people on Twitter, and I can almost like narrow down who's who that's leaving bad reviews, but that's okay. I could take it. We all could take it. We're pretty strong here at the Let's Go Devils podcast. The only podcast that was going 10 months straight during a pandemic talking about Devils hockey when the Devils weren't even playing. That's something they can't take away from us, the haters. But that's okay. That's okay. Because when it's all said and done, we're all united. Come the playoffs. We got to play some defense. Yes, that's right, Ted. Got to play some defense. But yeah. Also, you can find us, subscribe to our YouTube channel Let's Go Devils. Find us on Facebook at Let's Go Devils Podcast and on Twitter at Let's Go Devils Pod. Max says the Lightning fans were a little salty last night. Hey, you know what? Let me tell you something. If there's any silver lining here, if there's any positive spin I'm going to do, I don't normally do spins on this podcast, on the Woo Report, but if there's any positive spin on when Devils fans, like, basically go after each other on social media and, you know, trashing me, I hit back sometimes. Sometimes I shouldn't, but sometimes I hit back because, like I said, you know, a couple times here on the podcast, you know, other people in the media, they've got bosses. They've got responsibilities. Me, I don't exactly have a boss. So sometimes, you know, I see these haters. They hate on everybody. But sometimes you just got to, like, you know, give them a little tough love, so to speak. Because at the end of the day, even though we kill each other, Devils fans versus Devils fans, it's really Devils fans versus the world. It's kind of like we're just training. It's kind of like training camp. So when the playoffs come, we'll be like guns blazing in terms of figuratively speaking. And will make us a little stronger in the end. But yeah, I agree with Max that the doomers in our fan base are very annoying. They can be. They can be. And you know what's, you know, I try to annoy people by just trying to be positive. And that tells you how screwed up our world is. When you're trying to be positive and people have a problem with that, and they're one of the, are you drunk? Are you okay? I actually got a tweet before that asking if I was drunk because I think that my opinion is Lindy Ruff should weaken to Jack Adams based on the 40-point improvement, despite the fact that the Boston Bruins and Jim Montgomery are on a historic pace. Interesting. All right, well, I'm going to hit the music, folks. I got to get to bed. Most people don't realize I get up like 6 a.m. in the morning. I do adult things. Try to be responsible. You know, we all have responsibilities. But it's always nice to get away, sit around and listen to the Woo Report while I do it. Or you guys listen to me. Much appreciate it. Much appreciate the super chats yesterday. It means a lot to us here on the podcast. Well, Devils fans against the world. And to all the Devils fans out there in the world, Switzerland, Germany, Austria, UK, New Zealand, Australia, India, the Czech Republic, or is it Czechia? You know where you are. Finland, Sweden, Norway. We see the demographics. Can't thank you enough for listening to this podcast as we're breaking record numbers as we speak. Yes, there is ice hockey in India. We are the #1 Devils podcast in India, Ted. I'm babbling now. This is the Woo Report. Till next time, let's go Devils.